Thinking of investing, working, or starting a business in the cannabis industry? We've got you covered right here on Plant Problems. Hosted by Tony Frischknecht, Plant Problems takes a different approach to cannabis than what you're seeing and hearing from the mainstream media. Come along with Tony and be in the know about how to invest, work, or start a cannabis business. Let's get the show started with your host, Tony Frischknecht.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Plant Problems. This is your host, Tony Frischknecht. Thanks so much for joining me today. I've got some news I want to share with you guys today. I've read a recent report here put out by the FDA on CBD. So this report has some pretty significant stuff in it. It's about 20 pages or so. This report is to the U.S. House Committee of Appropriations and the U.S. Senate Committee of Appropriations on CBD. And this report has some pretty major information in it that I think our hemp CBD guys should be aware of. Last spring in May, so May 2019, there was a public hearing that the FDA put on. Said 600 participants showed up. They had 4,500 comments submitted and 100 speakers. And they had 2,300 people that were remotely joined. From what it looks like to me is most of the people that were in attendance were pro-CBD. It's a good thing. I'm sure they had a little bit of opposition, but nothing more. I mean, I think it was very similar when we had medical marijuana hearings down at the city buildings. And you'd have a couple hundred people down there talking, going back to 2009, 2008 time period. And we would be in a small auditorium area where you didn't know too many people, but there was a lot of pro marijuana. And so we have like 75 to 100 people that would go up and speak. And you figured 95% of them were pro cannabis. And you had 5% that were like police officers and probation officers and some kind of a law enforcement person up there. And I remember watching some of the activists come up on stage. And at the time, we used to call them whacktivists because they were really pro cannabis, which was awesome, but they were just over the top a little bit. And so at that point in time, we were trying to get as much credibility as possible. And as a new business owner in a new industry, showing the city that we were actually the real deal, sometimes it would be frustrating because we didn't want to be lumped in as these activist people with cannabis. And they wouldn't take us seriously. So at each meeting, we would get a little bit better voice out and a little bit more business happening. So eventually that overtake, of course, you see nowadays it's actually made it there. But at the time we were just hoping somebody would listen to us and take us seriously. So I can imagine at this CBD hearing, there was similar vibes to that. And now it's funny to think back that far when, they just stuffed us into some little auditorium somewhere. And so I kind of see that happening. But anyway, back to the article, back to the report. So I want you guys to go check this out. If you go to where is it here? If you go to the FDA's website, so fda.gov, you should be able to find this report in there, okay? But the concerning thing that I noticed reading this is that they have come up with some associated risks from CBD. They say there's potential risks, including liver injury, drowsiness, that's not a big deal, and potential for drug interactions. So taking with any kind of prescription drugs, you could have an adverse reaction. You usually see this, and I've heard people have reactions if they're taking vitamin C. It counteracts their medication. And then the other thing that was a little concerning is they said they did some animal studies, found risks including those related to male reproductive toxicity. Not sure what that means, but that's obviously doesn't sound good. At this point, the only drug right now that is FDA approved is Epidiolex, which is the epilepsy pill made by GW Pharmaceutical. And they're actually launching this in Europe this quarter, so Q1 of 2020. And so you're going to start seeing that pop up quite a bit over in Europe. We should start hearing about that. So that'll be good because we'll get some more feedback on this drug as it is. But not to go into a boring side of this report, I don't want to read through the whole thing. I tried that and it didn't seem to really make a lot of sense. At least there's a lot of great information here, but the meat to this report is that the FDA is leaving, I would say they're leaving their doors open to have further discussions. What does that mean? It's hard to say. I mean, maybe they're really saying, come share your data with us. We want to learn more about this. But this is new territory for cannabis. And I think you have to tread cautiously as you dip into the world of the FDA. Because somebody told me a long time ago, in Colorado, we have this medical marijuana enforcement division. And these are enforcement guys, and so is the FDA. So you are dealing with police. And just remember that as you open up your doors. Police officers see a lot of black and white. There's not a lot of gray area. So keep that in mind. I'm not trying to scare you out there, guys. I'm just saying that these are little things that I think about when you're dealing with, especially the federal government. So think about that. Please talk to your attorney first. Don't just go in there blindly. Make sure you understand what you're getting into. But you're going to have to, especially if you're developing a product. I mean, if you're going to really develop the next product and you want it to be regulated as a high quality supplement or even as a drug, if you want to go through the application process with the FDA, you definitely got to know what you're doing and make sure that you know what you're getting into. You don't want to start down this road and put all this time and effort into it and figure out that you need $10 million to put something together. You don't want to waste your time doing that. A lot of these big drug companies have been doing this for a long time. They know how the process is. You as a little guy, it's not impossible to pull off. That's what's great about cannabis and hemp CBD. There are now big guys that really know what they're doing yet. People are acting as if, but there's really nobody that is dominating the market. That's great for you as a business owner. That's great for you as an individual. I mean, think about that. It's not dominated yet. There's a few players that are involved. And you could potentially be one of the main guys. And I say that smile, but I'm dead serious. And with that opportunity that's available out there to you, it's hard not to get into this industry, right? I mean, it is exciting, but when you start to think about the timing and the place you're in right now, and we're going through some tough times right now. I mean, we've got the coronavirus is kind of happening, but what I'm also seeing is that there are some big doors opening for cannabis that were not there because the market just hasn't matured. We're starting to see there was a dip, and it looks like we've seen some massive sales come out of the last couple weeks in what I like to call the lockdown period, because that's what it is. It's been a bit trying on a lot of people mentally. It's been a little bit tough on me too, because I spend a significant amount of time thinking about what I can produce for you. That's what's going to be helpful for the business owner and the investor. And I am seeing some doors open up right now that makes me want to jump into this on a large scale. Sometimes I look at this and I was like, oh, I want to take care of that. I would love to get into this. And I have to remember my place a lot of the time because I have a lot of irons in the fire too, so I got to be careful. But I do see some massive opportunity ready to pop, even with the coronavirus, the downturn in the market. People are concerned about, but that opportunity is there. So I didn't mean to get too far off track there, but what I see could be looked at as negatively with the FDA report, and I think it is, but you have a lot of opportunity to actually change that right now and to take advantage of that if you want to dig further into it. And I would suggest if you're heavily into CBD, like I said before, I would suggest exploring. You have to read this report, absolutely, but also you don't want to invest a ton of time and money into this, and all of a sudden your dreams are smashed because you weren't paying attention to what was happening locally. I talk about this in several other episodes, but one of them is the association, and that's association groups and getting involved. So get involved with some association groups. Read this report, tie into it, see how you can help mold and shape this thing so the FDA doesn't come and close your product down or nail you for some labeling, off-labeling issues. Things like that will finish your business. And I don't want that to happen to you guys. So just want to drop you guys a little bit of information today. It's kind of a short one today, but I thought it was important. So thanks for joining me today, guys. And I hope you guys have an awesome day. Bye for now.
You've just listened to another insightful episode of Plant Problems. If you like what you heard so far, don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues. For additional resources or to leave a review, head over to plantproblem.com. Join us again next week on Plant Problems with Tony Frischknecht. We look forward to having conversations with you as we go along this journey.